Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is July 5th. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the City Council to order and invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Somerville. Absent. Cumby.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
That's 8 present and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. And I do see Councilor Somerville is now present on Zoom. Thank you, City Clerk. We will move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to any sort of issue that is not on our agenda can go ahead and come forward in the room or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Please. Give us your name and you will have 3 minutes. Welcome back.
Hello, my name is Chris McGlover. Thank you guys again, councilman. What should we talk about today? I guess we can go back to that hangar purchase at the airport. I was just out at my airplane yesterday doing some wiring for my landing light, which is an essential, but that sort of maintenance will become illegal under the rules and regs document that's currently proposed. Anyway, I don't really want to get into that. I did notice that the hangar that the airport decided to purchase is still empty out there, which isn't surprising to me since the rent is $1,000 a month. I'm paying $150 a month for the exact same thing, one door down. And it's truly a shame because instead of not collecting rent on that, the county is also not getting property tax or land lease fees that I would have paid for that. And then while investigating some more rules surrounding that, I found that any funds used by the city or Joint Powers Board to purchase real property that displaces a person, that person has to be compensated. I thought it was a federal law. I brought it up to the feds, but I was told that federal funds weren't used or I didn't apply in that scenario without giving any explanation of why. So I just want to bring it up to you guys too, that the definition of a displaced person is anybody that is physically removed from that facility or his personal property, which my airplane was physically removed from the hangar that the airport board purchased. So I qualify as a displaced person under this Relocation Act. And I would ask if you guys would look into that and to see if I would qualify for that, but I know your only legal representative was one of the members that agreed on that purchase and that I received no information from is why I do not qualify for any of that assistance. Anyway, moving on, I also don't know what funds were used to purchase that, so I don't know if I'd qualify for either the federal or the state statutes of that clause, because I have not been provided a budget that I've requested several times through the public records request forms and different things like that. And that's just an example of how many rules are being broken right now that you guys are supposed to be shepherding. And it's really setting a bad example for folks in the community if our own government is not standing up for the rules that you are setting. So with that, I see my time has expired. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Mr. McGlover, for taking time out of your evening to join the City Council. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council on any item not on the agenda? Please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and move on to the Vice Mayor for item 5.
I move that the agenda be set as submitted.
Second.
Motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Councillor Pierce. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda has been set. We will move on then to proclamations, public hearings, and notifications. Starting first with, we don't have any presentations or proclamations. City Manager, correct? Just announcements this evening?
Mayor, that is correct.
Thank you. City Clerk will move then on to the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on July 5th, 2023 in the City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. The meeting shall be held with both online Zoom and in-person option to take public comment on the following: City Council Resolution 2023-35, resolution of the City Council Mayor. Resolution of the City of Laramie City Council adopting the Casper Aquifer Protection Plan, adopt a collaboration between Albany County and the City of Laramie in its entirety. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Planning Office at 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present at the City Council chambers or via Zoom.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any members of the public wish to speak during this public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Move then to announcements. City Manager.
Mayor, thank you. We have an announcement from Assistant City Manager Todd Friesen.
Thank you. Welcome, Assistant City Manager.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, I'm here to just recap Freedom Has a Birthday and Fire in the Sky. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Freedom Has a Birthday presented by Rocky Mountain Power was held yesterday on July 4th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'd like to thank the staff that were involved leading up to that event. That includes Nancy Oakland Potter, Nancy Bartholomew, Kevin McIntyre, Jody Guerin, Scott Hunter, the Parks Cemetery Recreation Crews, J.R. Slingerland, and Felipe Salzo from the Sanitation Crews, Shane Johnson, Craig Nottage from the Street Crews for all the pre-work that we did, and that's just getting to the event. The day of the event, we had on site Laura Tangeman, Cody Talbot, Jody Guerin, Kevin McIntyre, Scott Hunter, Mike Malloy, Owen Schilt, Brandon Moen, who are two of our interns, which did a fantastic job. Brandon's right back here. He's asleep because he worked so hard yesterday. But he's over there. Oh, management analysts. I'm sorry. That's right. They're under a contract. They're management analysts. Sorry, Brandon. But we had lifeguards, park workers. Jacob and Haley went all day. They worked 12 hours yesterday. I eclipsed them by an hour and a half, just so that you know. Cemetery workers. The Laramie Fire Department was on site. Dennis Johnson spent all day at the event. He'll come up later. And then the Laramie Police Department. A few Laramie City Council members were there. Thank you very much. And then Ronnie Armijo was a volunteer that ran the horseshoe tournament for us. So quick shout out to our sponsors. The title sponsor was Rocky Mountain Power. We had Uniwile Credit Union, Bender Rubel Sound, Centennial Woods, Simon Contractors, Meadow Gold Dairy, Stage Point Federal Credit Union, Grand Avenue Urgent Care, and Honeywagon Sanitation Pumping. First Interstate Bank and Safeway, and we really did have an excellent event yesterday. We had a little cool weather in the morning. The band shell was the fullest I'd ever seen it for a municipal band concert. It was very exciting. We got a little bit of rain, and then shortly after the rain, the fire department was doing the good old-fashioned hose down, and I heard that one little young man took a direct hit to the face, but we haven't heard from them yet on anything else. But they had a lot of fun, and I think the event was a success, and I've heard nothing but positive comments today about it. As we move on to Fire in the Sky, which was a fireworks show last night, the weather held off and we were able to put the show off. I think it was an excellent show. Interesting enough, Dennis Johnson worked all day yesterday. He also is the one that leads the Fire in the Sky at night, so he didn't get home till 1 a.m. So I think Dennis deserves some real positive recognition from that event. Other folks that leading up to that event that make it successful: Nancy Oakland Potter, Nancy Bartholomew, Dennis Johnson, Mike Malloy in the Streets Division. And then day of the event was Dennis Johnson and Justin Sliker. And my sponsor, presented by Wyotech, that extends the show by 5 minutes. So we get a 21-minute show instead of a 16-minute show. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Todd. Any questions, council members? Yeah, Councilor Doherty, please.
I just have a comment. I want to thank Assistant City Manager Feaser. I know you knocked yourself out, and it was a wonderful event, and I loved hearing a lot of people told us they got to touch a truck with the police department they had been at that event, and so they were happy to see the police department and the fire department there. And that fire hose, boy, the kids were just squealing, ecstatic, having a great time. So thank you for all your hard work.
The one thing I do forget to add is that we got to thank the community for showing up. They come out to the event, they're positive, they have a lot of fun, you just see nothing but smiles, and that's why we do those events. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Todd. Any other announcements?
Not from staff, council.
Okay, thank you. Just by way of a council announcement, council members will be at the Farmers Market July 28th, August 4th, and August 11th for conversations and a little bit of education about recycling. So council members, if you haven't signed up, myself included, get on it. So it's not the same folks every time. All right. Any other announcements, council? Okay, great. Move then to disclosures by city council members on any items before us this evening. Seeing none, we will move on to approval of the consent agenda. Vice Mayor.
I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilor Pierce. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson. Yes. Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The consent agenda has been approved. Councilor Newman, item 11.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to award the bid for the street reconstruction chip seal project to Simon Contractors, Laramie, Wyoming, in the amount of $655,883, along with a contingency of $32,797, for a total amount not to exceed $688,680, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Gabriel. Welcome, Director Webb.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. We went out to bid on the chip seal project in May. We opened bids in June, and we got one bidder, Simon Contractors. The chip seal project includes about 4.5 miles worth of roadway. I included a list of those streets on your cover sheet, and there's a kind of an obscure map there for you. It's hard to see because it's citywide, but kind of gives you an idea of the different areas the chip seal will be in. You may notice that the bid amount is higher than the award amount. After we got the bids in and they were over, we worked with the contractor to scope it down. We had to cut a few streets out to get it within the allocated budget. The street priority list that we put together is off of the recent 2022 pavement study, and also includes chip seal out at the landfill and the asphalt that was done out there a few years ago. So with that, we are recommending approval of the bid and the contract to Simon Contractors. I'll take questions if you have them.
Thank you, Director Webb. Council members, any questions? Councilor Richardson, please.
I'm just curious how many streets we had to omit due to the budget, if you don't hand.
I brought it. There was 4 streets totaling, it's approximately 7 blocks, but you know, in some of the areas the blocks aren't true blocks, about 7 blocks worth. Yeah.
Thank you. Council members, any other questions? Okay. City Clerk, you can call the, oh, forgive me, members of the public. Any member of the public wish to speak on this item? Raise your hands on Zoom or come forward. Okay, we will close public comment period. Council members, any comments before the vote? Okay, now City Clerk, you can call the roll. Thank you.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. Item 12, Councilor O'Doherty.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-46. I move to approve Resolution 2023-46, authorizing the submittal of an application to the United States Department of Transportation's Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant in an amount not to exceed $2,882,147.20 to support the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure in Laramie, Wyoming, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, second by Vice Mayor Cumby. Assistant City Manager, please.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, as you may remember, we were here for 2023-38, which was basically a resolution authorizing the same application to this funding notice. What happened is we found that one of our projects didn't meet the intent of the community, the maximum amount of the community, and the other one was large on the corridor. And requirements of the grant were $1.5 million or less, and we couldn't make it work unless we combined the two grant applications together, which brought the price value we had initially approved at $1 million grant application up to the $2,882,000 plus change. Also wanted to point out that the nice thing about this grant is that the rules specifically provide that if you are awarded this grant, the private entity that you contract with through a proposal is required to provide the match, so there's no risk to the city if we are awarded this grant application. As I've stated before, this is really the groundwork for future Wyoming Department NEVI grant applications if they do roll those out with the Department of Transportation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if we could.
Thank you. Council members, any questions? When you say NEVI, is that an acronym for something?
The National Electrical Vehicle Charging Infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Council members, any questions? Okay. Please, Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, do we have any data on the number of EV vehicles heading down I-80, potentially stopping and spending money in Laramie and doing tourist stuff? Is that something we're going to be able to get at some point?
Honorable Chair, through you, I believe there is data that relates to that. Keep in mind that this grant is to provide the infrastructure, which is oftentimes the cost of driving three-phase power someplace, which could be as much as $1 million to go 3 or 4 blocks. And that's what a lot of this funding is for. But the all intensive purposes is that we see the growth of EV charging is to be prepared for that as that comes and be prepared for the next 10 years.
Great, thank you.
Council members? Okay. We will go to the public then. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments. Assistant City Manager, thank you for your efforts on this. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We'll move on to item 13, Councilor Richardson.
Thank you. I move that the Laramie City Council approve Resolution 2023-47, supporting the submission of an application to the National Endowment for the Arts Our Town Grant Program to support the implementation of art along the downtown 3rd Street corridor in an amount not to exceed $150,000 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Pierce. Assistant City Manager, back to you.
Honorable Mayor, in response to the work session that we had recently on 3rd Street beautification, we had indicated that we were potentially looking to apply to a National Endowment for the Arts grant for the Our Town grant. We met together as a team, Laramie Public Art Coalition, myself, and Laramie Main Street Alliance, and discussed the grant programs, the outlines. Interestingly enough, Wyoming scores high in National Endowment for the Art applications to try to get grant applications here. and we opted to maybe go for the full amount to provide for hopefully design and implementation of some sort of art project that runs the entire corridor. We don't know what that looks like because it'll include design and call for artists and all those pieces. But through the funding that was awarded in the initial resolution, 2023-15, matching that with some of this funding will help us get to a little bit better project than we had anticipated with the initial funding that was outlined. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council members? Seeing no questions, we will go to the public on this. Sir, did you have a question? Oh, I thought I saw your hand up, Councilor. Members of the public, if you wish to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room, or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. Okay. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Richardson.
Yes?
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. On to item 14, Vice Mayor Cumby.
I move to approve original ordinance 2064 on third and final reading, adding Laramie Municipal Code Section 2.60, creating the Laramie Police Citizen Review Board, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by Pierce. City Manager.
Good evening, Council. As noted, this is third reading. I wanted to thank Chief Brown for pinch hitting on second reading this item a few weeks ago when I was away and handling that by himself. Just as a quick reminder, the city did form an ad hoc working group for police and community in 2022. We asked them to give us recommendations, and one of the recommendations that they brought forward to us was for the City Council to consider the implementation of a board similar to this. So City Council subsequently adopted Resolution 2022-20, which directed myself to establish a police and community committee, and that is sort of how we ended up here this evening. This ordinance is being jointly recommended to City Council by both the police chief and by myself. It would establish a citizen board as a permanent standing board within the City of Laramie's larger boards and commissions structure. This board would function much like our other boards do, like the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, the Traffic Safety Commission, the Board of Health, and it would provide a structure through which residents can gain a greater understanding about city services in the police department, while also providing recommendations, and advice to leadership here at the city. This board will work to expand public transparency around policing and enhance our accountability to the public and our effort to improve trust with the residents of Laramie and visitors of Laramie with respect to policing, and then also to build greater understanding of our law enforcement training, policies, practices, and procedures, acting as a partner to the police department, to myself and to the police chief, as well as to the city council. So with that in mind, I'll let you move to the vote. I would just remind you that we did publish on each of these three readings the bylaws that would be the companion item to this code revision. Those bylaws are not before you tonight. We will place them on the next agenda, and along with those bylaws, I'll bring a companion item to those bylaws, which will be a resolution for the council to establish your interview committee to hire and appoint this full brand new board and kind of get it up and moving forward. And that resolution will be similar, as you'll recall, to the resolution that we recently used to establish and appoint the first and inaugural board of the new Urban Renewal Authority. So same process, just a different board. So you have two more items on July 18th to conclude the process of establishing the board and getting us moving toward appointment, if that is the will of the council. Thank you,
City Manager. I sure appreciate that. Councilor Doherty, I'm going to move to you.
Chief Brown is here, of course, as well.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager. Welcome, Chief Brown. Councilor Doherty, please.
I move to amend the ordinance title Laramie Police Advisory Board, the title to Laramie Police Advisory Board.
Second.
And alter throughout the ordinance.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, seconded by Pierce. Council members, any questions or conversation on this? Please, Councilor Doherty.
This stemmed from a conversation with the chief and our city manager, well, our assistant city manager. So several members of staff and council.
Thank you, Councilor. This puts it in line with the naming of many of our boards. Okay. I will go to the public on this. Please keep your comments just to the name at this point. We will have an opportunity. I sense that many of you are here for this item. There will be a moment to comment on the entirety after this. If you would like to comment, please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period on the amendment back to the council before the vote. City Clerk, you can call the roll on the amendment.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The amendment has been approved. We will be back to the main motion now. Council members, any questions before we go to members of the public? I sense that there's an interest in public comment. Okay. We're going to go ahead and open up the public comment period, and council will come back after that. I'm going to alternate. If there is some on Zoom, I'm going to just alternate between in-person and on Zoom just to keep us on track. But Mr. Martin, you are first. Please come forward. And while I've got your name, the council does not, so give us your name.
Is the
And you have
mic
3
on?
minutes. Is it green? Yes, sir, it is. Thank you for checking.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for allowing me to speak. Again, I rise against this. We are told this is about community relations, not oversight. I mean, changing the name, I guess maybe is a good start, even though I'm opposed to this altogether. This is a civilian police review board. You are granting the authority to this board to take complaints against our men and women in the police department. You're also granting them the authority to recommend discipline and recommend termination. It is a review board. There's no accountability. I can have accountability with all the members on this committee. You're up for re-election periodically. This civilian review board is not accountable to the citizens directly. I have asserted over the last couple of weeks, you have a competent management team at the police department, chief of police, assistant, commanders, safety officers, training officers, and sergeants. You're paying them a lot of money and they're doing a great job. The city council is the civilian review board. Ask your attorney. Here shortly, you're going to be looking at possibly buying drones for the police department, and you're going to have to weigh people's privacy or the police department's ability to fight crime. You can investigate any department within the city. You fund them. You can hold a closed session with any member of the community and take their complaint and sit down with the chief. You are the review board. I really feel that this is legislation by piecemeal. It failed a year ago, but what's going to say down the road that the bylaws are amended to give this teeth? But I want to share with you some positive ideas or reshare them that you can do to get community involvement in our police. You could fund the overtime and the necessary resources for both our fire chief and our police chief to hold a public safety fair in the spring and the fall. And they could go over all these different things and the ideas that there's a minority of people that are scared of the police department. But really consider that. And I mentioned other things that could be done. But here towards the end, I want to just share with you quickly something from a book. Author and former Salt Lake City Police Chief Cleon Skousen wrote of the negative effects of civilian police review boards. Beginning in Philadelphia, and I quote from his book, The War on U.S. Police, a few cities concluded to experiment with the highly controversial idea of a civilian police review boards. Skousen wrote, however, the results were soon devastatingly evident. Not only did the police find such boards to be guilty of biased decisions, but the impact on police morale was so harmful that it left certain phases of the police service an empty shell. The FBI investigated riots in a sobering warning where there is an outside civilian review board, and the restraint of the police was so great that effective action against the rioters appeared to be impossible. Basically, I don't want to see in this community what happened in Baltimore, Seattle, Portland, Oakland, New York, and dozens of other ravaged cities. The men and women of the Laramie Police Department deserve better. Please, I'm asking you, please, vote no on the Civilian Review Board and utilize what you already have. Thank you so much for letting me speak tonight.
Mr. Martin, thank you for taking time out of your evening to be with us. All right, is there anyone? No one is on Zoom, so we're going to stay in the room. Anybody else wish to comment to the City Council on this item? Please come forward. Welcome, and just give us your name, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Sandy Reese, Council. I rise in opposition of the concept of a citizen review board because here we go again. We've dealt with this before, and it was opposed. There was a citizen effort to have signatures opposing it, and we had well over 1,000 signatures, and here we go again. How many times are we going to have to meet and deal with this before we can put it to bed? The citizens in the community really do not want it. And quite honestly, we already have a citizen review board, and it is called the City Council. It's you folks. You have a job to do. Do not abdicate it to a group of unelected bureaucrats who are not answerable to the public. Because if you create a board that has the ability to change the bylaws as soon as they are created, they don't answer to us. That is very disturbing to the public. And it doesn't matter what you change the name to. You can call it a review board, you can call it an oversight board. A turd by any other name still stinks. I think you folks need to take the responsibility. We have a chief of police and a management staff that are very good, that are very answerable, and I have never found any problem at all in walking into the chief's office in previous chiefs and visiting with any of them. As far as transparency and communications, it's there. And so I think you all need to step up and assume and retain your responsibility as the oversight board. Do not abdicate it to an unelected board of bureaucrats that do not answer to the public. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your evening to join the City Council. Any other members of the public wish to speak to this item? Tracy Rosenland, please, City Clerk, let her into the room. Tracy, when you are in the room, you will have 3 minutes. Tracy, if you're talking to us, you are muted. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, City Council and Mayor. My name's Tracy Rosenland, and I have been involved in the development, I would say, of this and the process of going through the creation of this advisory board for the Laramie Police Department. And I think that it has come a really long way and received a lot of input and receives a lot of support. And so I think that it does reflect the things that the community is asking for, and it does create bridges for members of the community who may not feel as able to have an open, engaged relationship with some members of the Laramie Police Department or even City Council. And their voices do matter, and they are still members of our community. And so I would like to encourage you to support this, and I really appreciate everyone's work that they have put into this. And I think that this has created a good outcome for all parties involved. And I look forward to the investigation and development of the bylaws. So I again encourage you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenland. Any other members of the public wish to speak? Please come forward, Mr. Schuster. You know the drill, but here's your
I know
name.
the
You
drill
got 3
very well.
minutes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Brian Schuster. Been in Laramie here a long, long time. Seen a lot of things happen. No, I don't support it, but I think it's going to be here. I have seen what people have said, and I believe this city council will be supporting it, not as a perfect majority, but a majority. I hope that when the application process, I don't know if it's going to be online or if we have to come pick up an application, I would sure like to do that, because I hope that no matter what happens, that it has the whole spectrum of people and not just one side. And I don't know who the interview committee will be, but yes, I would like to interview for it. With my 4 terms on council, I think I probably attended over 100 executive sessions, and it was a lot of time about personnel. Never take it further than that, because it needs to be in executive session and nothing should ever be leaked out. So yes, I believe when I took my oath of office, it was to review any department, because a lot of different departments have been reviewed, or personnel in departments. So I've always felt that, yes, we are the review committee for the city of Laramie. So thank you much for your time. Like I said, when it comes open here, yes, I would like to apply for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster, for taking time to join us again. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council on this item? Please come forward. Oh, Mr. Montoya, Ms. Devine first, and then you, Mr. Montoya. Oh, it's fine. Yeah, if she doesn't mind, Mr. Montoya, please come forward. We got time for all of you. No problem at all.
Time for everyone.
That's right.
Paul Montoya. First thing I'd like to do, Mayor and City Council, is to thank Tracy and the rest of the team for putting this together. I don't really have a strong opinion either way, whether the review board should be created. My issues continue to be with the bylaws, so as you continue to develop bylaws, I ask you to look at a few items that I am a little bit concerned with. The first one would be Article 4 under Responsibilities, Section 2. The board will monitor the department's compliance with the training mandates of the Wyoming Police Officer Standards and Training. I find that without a lot of real heavy knowledge on that subject, that's going to be hard for that committee to do on an ongoing basis. I'm sure it'll be an education process, but maybe we should get more specific with that in the bylaws.
Mr. Montoya, please keep your comments just to the, not to the bylaws at this point. We'll hear the bylaws in 2 weeks.
Oh, you will? Would you rather wait then? That's
yeah,
fine.
And I don't mean to sort of.
Yeah, my only comments are to the bylaws.
Yeah, so we will have.
Would you rather me wait with that then?
If you'd like, yeah.
That'd be fine.
Unless you have anything else to add.
Yeah, the only other thing would be probably the issue with appointed members. And again, this is in the bylaws, but it has the general feel. And my concern is that I tend to think that we're asking a lot from people to be part of this. And I would say before we actually create the review board, we really need to look at this, because this is asking for 20 to 40 hours training program for anybody that's part of this, and also asking for ongoing training on an annual basis. And it basically says that people have 90 days to do this, but there's no remedy within the bylaws if they don't comply with that. So as you look at this, I don't know if it's something that could be tabled until the bylaws are completed, or whether you really think you can fit the bylaws to the committee, but it is something to consider. I hate to put the cart before the horse in creating a new committee or board. So that'd be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. I appreciate that. Ms. Fine, please come forward. Welcome.
Good evening.
Just give us your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Linda Devine, Laramie citizen. It's all about perception. Folks, there are folks here saying that they feel comfortable with going into the chief's office. They see no problems, and I think that's great. But there are a lot of folks that perceive things differently. And I think there's this misunderstanding that from a lot of folks that are opposing this, that we're wanting to come in and take over, completely reform the police, that we think they're all racist, this and that. So I want to tell y'all a little bit of a story about someone that I represented several years ago. It was a young black man who was from the inner city, and it was right after one of the shootings. I don't know if it was Ferguson or Freddie Gray or who knows, there's so many of them. He was pulled over downtown on suspected of a DUI. This gentleman, all he did was put his hands out of the window and waving, "No gun, no gun, no gun." And the officer, who handled it pretty well, but still was like, "What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why are you so upset?" That's where I think an advisory board can be helpful, is having meetings explaining why someone from one particular group of folks, whether it's, color of skin or the LGBTQ or from a different city, may have different experiences, may have fear of law enforcement. That doesn't mean that we're sitting there saying that they're horrible or things like that. It's just having a dialogue. And it does not escape me today that the people opposed to this are primarily white. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because I can tell you, a lot of folks of color and marginalized community do support something like this, and we need to engage in dialogue, and we need to try to work together. And we talk about opening up communication and transparency, and I appreciate a lot of the things that the chief has started, and I see more of law enforcement around, but there's got to be more than just, and I mean no offense, being at the farmer's market or shop with a cop or whatever, because some people don't feel safe when they see law enforcement at farmer's market. Some people would not want to go shopping. So what can we do to get these folks together and help change some perception? So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council on this item? Raise your hand if you're on Zoom or come forward in the room. Welcome. Give us your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Ed Deloy.
Thank you.
I'm opposed to this. I think that environment is critical to good leadership. And I think an oversight board that has 40 hours of training is not creating a good environment for a police officer who has, how long does it take to become a cop? 2-3 years?
Sir, please
It's a long time.
Just address the council, please.
It takes a long time to become a police officer. So I'm just opposed to this. I don't think that an oversight board, and I thought I heard the lady on the computer say that she thought that an oversight board would be good for you too. I thought I heard her say that. If somebody is overseeing you, it undermines everything you do. You have a boss that does it. You have voters that do it for you. You have a police chief that does it for your police officers. If you involve the citizenship, who knows what you're going to get? And 40 hours is not enough to train somebody to oversee our police force. Our police force is doing a great job. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Thanks. God save the Queen.
Thank you for taking time out of your evening to join us. Any other members of the public wish to speak to the council this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment period on this item. Council members, any questions or comments as we head into the vote? Please, Councilor Doherty.
I just want to make it clear to the public that no one on this council is questioning the competency of our police chief. We're very happy with our police chief. We're very happy with our police department. Most of our town is very happy with the police department. Some people don't know enough about them, don't know that they don't have to be scared of our police officers. This is an opportunity for dialogue. It's a way to have citizens say, you know, what would be a good idea is if you like for the interaction, for more ways for the police and the citizens to interact. It's a public meeting, so people can come. The other thing is it was compared a couple of weeks ago to the military. And the police, in my view, should be very different from the military. Unless you're an occupying force, which there's some problems there too. The military is opposing the people. Our police, our peace officers, they're our police, our citizens should have a say on how they want to be policed. I don't have a choice of who pulls me over if I'm exceeding the speed limit. I have a choice with if I want to go to a doctor or a dentist or whatever. So the police are an agency in our community, and people want to have some, better relationship, and that's what this is an opportunity. And I really would like to find the minutes to make it clear that we voted against the Oversight Board, but in that same vote, we voted for this Community Relations Board. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Doherty. Councilor Gabriel? Oh, Councilor Shumway.
Go ahead. I don't think I'm quite ready yet.
Councilor Shumway, please.
I'm not sure I am either, but let me get started.
Have at it.
As this council knows, I have considered both viewpoints, and I voted yes the first time it came forward, and then voted no the second time. I think I'll continue to be in opposition to this. And let me just kind of go, and I want to give you a very clear reason for my position, which could change depending on discussion here, but we now have a advisory board. But the ordinance says this, it says that we're going to direct the Citizens Advisory Board to focus on practices, policies, and public engagement. Now, under practices, I've thought of things such as, police abuse of power, false arrests, the use of force, policies, things that could include promotions, suspensions, termination of police officers under public engagement, opinions on the level of police funding, targeting practices, and police mental health credentials. The Laramie Police Department currently has several citizens review and advisory groups in place. And let me just give you the examples of who they are. First of all, there's the Laramie Civil Services Commission, which the public's invited every time they have that Civil Service Commission meeting to make comments. The Laramie City Council, we are very much responsible. The Laramie City Manager, the Laramie Chief of Police, the Laramie Municipal Court, the Laramie District Court, and also anytime there are letters, phone calls, emails, texts to the newspaper, to the city manager, to the chief of police, to the city council, and public comments during meetings such as this, and also during Civil Service Commission meetings. And there's also legal complaints to the municipal courts and district courts, and that's all something that is in place. A reason to form another group would be because some or all of the above commissions, councils, managers, chiefs, and courts are not doing their job. So if we all were doing our job, there wouldn't be a need for this in my mind, but perhaps there are those that think that there needs to be an additional law enforcement well, there needs to be another citizens review board. Let me give you an example of a group that does not have a citizens review or advisory group here in our community. The Albany County Sheriff's Department does not. The UW Police Department does not. The Wyoming State Highway Patrol does not. And then even deeper, the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Justice, the ICE, ATF, and the Wyoming National Guard. None of those have Laramie citizens advisory groups. There is a very vocal group in Laramie. We have people here today that have been feel very concerned about having a citizens review board for schools. They feel it's desperately needed to make Albany County School District number 1 accountable for their practices. Remember, this is what we have: practices, policies, and lack of public engagement. Let's look at the similarities between the Albany County School District number 1 and the police department here in Laramie. Albany County School District number 1 has the superintendent of schools. Laramie has a city manager. Albany County School District has an elected school board. Laramie has an elected city council. Principals of public schools are administrators. The chief of police and other officers govern local policing. Teachers serve students. The police and detectives are sworn to protect and serve citizens. Now, if a school citizens review board were formed, it could review and advise on topics such as the teaching of critical race theory, the banning of sexually explicit library and classroom books, opposing gender studies and the participation in transgender sports. They could oppose labeling parents that complain at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. They could support the removal of poor teachers, poor coaches, and administrators. Those that would support citizens fixing policy would also probably support citizens activism in education. And that's kind of how I've been thinking. Now, it can be, if I can be convinced that a police citizens advisory board is doing something that we are missing as these different groups that have responsibility right now and oversight, then I will commit to this council, the managers, the courts, the police leaders, and everyone else that I'll support this ordinance. But if you can't convince me that we are missing something, that we're unable to do our job and fill that void that you think that we have, then I'm going to continue to say no on this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilor Shumway. Anyone else for the first time? Councilor Newman and then Councilor Gabriel.
I'm the new guy on the council, so I'm not going to try to persuade anybody's votes, but I do have some comments that I'll say. First off, my skin color has nothing to do with why I'm voting no on this, nor will it ever. So the people in opposition of this, just because they're a different race or the same race, doesn't mean that they look at the other races and see what the problem is nationwide, not necessarily in Laramie. I met with the chief, had coffee with him, and met with some of the sergeants, I think, and talked to them for a little bit during their briefings. And I told the chief after the meeting that I didn't know how I was going to vote, if I was going to vote yes or no. Somebody said that, one of the people that came up said that this review board would be great because it's a public meeting. I'm sitting in a public meeting right now, and if I'm going to vote the way that our Laramie citizens came to us, it's a 4-2 vote. 4 people were against it, 2 people were for it. And if those people those people have problems, this is a public meeting, they can come and they can address city council as well. And that's kind of my stance on this. I also have a feeling the bylaws could be changed afterwards, and I know city council gets to vote on that. But who knows what city council will be in 8 or 12, 16 years on how those bylaws can move. Well, I don't want to copy anybody, but Councilor Shumway, if somebody could persuade me that this would be fine, and it takes the responsibility for me and puts it on somebody else, why that would be a good thing, I would have no problem changing my vote. I don't see that happening, so I'm still going to vote no on this. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Councilor Newman. Councilor Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I share some of the same feelings of the public that are against this, but as I've said before, I think coming from the city manager, from the police chief, it's something that he's in favor of. I think we should, as a council, see how this can develop, how this can be good for the community. I'm looking forward to seeing if this should pass, how the advisory board will interact, and hopefully make our policing in Laramie and the understanding of how it works to the public more positive. And so had it not been from the police chief and from the city manager, I certainly would have some reservations about that. But that's really my whole feeling of being positive about this, is that something that the police chief is in favor of, and I look forward to seeing how it develops.
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel. I'm going to go to the Vice Mayor and then to Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am in support of this ordinance because I see it as an opportunity for dialogue. I see that it offers city, our police chief, our city manager, a window into the community. Sometimes I think some of these other boards are very focused in their duties, and I would see that this, as an advisory board, might take on a variety of community issues and offer the chief dialogue, a sounding board, cooperation, etc. And over the past 30-plus years, mental health services, the funding for mental health have decreased dramatically. And as mental health funding decreased, who picked up the slack? Our police departments. So one of the things, I've been a part of the Mental Health Advisory Board for Albany County. I represent the city on that board. I've been working with them for 2 years, and we're starting to get to a point of action, of funding, and of actually having mental health professionals work with the police collaboratively to try to handle mental health crises in our community. And I think some of the things we've asked police to do is like a bucket catch-all. Oh, we need to have this done, we need to have this done, and they wind up taking care of mental health crisis because there's no one else to do it. So with the Mental Health Board, we then begin to look at practices, we begin to look at policy, and we begin to look at how the departments engage with the community during times of mental health crisis. And that's just one example of something that might come through that board, is developing and helping to work with the programs that we are working on right now to provide mental health care in collaboration with the police force. And that's just one of the reasons that I'm very positive about this board and its potential to work with the chief of police, with the council, as our community representatives. So I plan to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilor Pierce, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. For those of you in the room, and I was not in favor of the oversight board that we talked about a year or more ago, or for that whole year. Mostly because, aside from state statute, being against state statute, and we'd get ourselves in a whole lot of legal trouble if we even went forward with any of this. There were just other issues, because this is not about personnel records. What we're proposing is not about hiring or termination or any of those issues that were randomly brought up earlier this evening. This is an advisory board to actually talk about and share good things, right? And be transparent and get out in the community, and let's hope and pray that it actually makes folks less afraid, right? And helps us understand their job and what they have to go through every day. You know, this is about making the community and that advisory board to work collaboratively with different organizations in town. This is not, and let's just go back to like the whole bylaws issue. And number one, the advisory board will not have the ability to change the bylaws. Bylaws have to come before city council to be changed, and they also have to stay in line with state statute. So rest assured that if there are any changes, A, they have to be approved by city council, and B, they have to be aligned with state statute, okay? So it's a huge hoop and leap to even think about what's in the future and what could come of this. So this is about the good and communication and transparency. So I am supportive of this. I was not supportive of the other stuff, but I am supportive of this because I think we need to get out there and talk about these things and have discussions, you know, and have events that are proactive and inviting and having that communication between the police and the entire community, no matter what color your skin is. You know, it's about communication and collaborative work in this community, and that's good, right? And that's what this is about.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce. Councilor Richardson.
Thank you. I am also in favor for a lot of the reasons that other people who have spoken in favor are as well. And I think about Councilor Shumway's comparison of a school board versus this, you know, having a board that would oversee. And, you know, I haven't had a lot of time to kind of think through this, but I really thought on that hard because I think, gosh, that's an interesting point. And you bring up some arguments that are really making me think, but one thing as I'm trying to think, like, okay, you know, what does this look like? One thing I would say, and it kind of goes back to what Councilor O'Doherty said earlier, that there's a choice, right? So when your children, or you put your child in a school, if you don't like what is being taught at that school, you can take them out of that school, you can homeschool them, you can go to a different district, but this is our only police force, so we don't have that choice. So being able to discuss what's going on and think about, like, is this best for our community? And having that oversight board, having the chief there and the city manager there to push back and say, you know, this is why we did this. And yeah, let's think about this differently from the police perspective, or let's think about this from the community perspective, or I think there's a bit of a difference there. So that's just kind of one place that I'm coming from. And this is a little harsh as well, but I mean, you go to school and you're not going to the principal's office who has a gun, and you might go to jail. You know, I mean, so those comparisons to me are a little bit different, although I appreciate that, like, you really got me thinking, Councilor Shumway, because I thought you have some points there, right? So when we think about those bylaws, I think we need to be very thoughtful about them and be more specific where we should and can, so that we're just thinking through all of these decisions, because it's important.
Thank you, Councilor Newman, for your second time. Give me 1 second just to, okay, sorry, please. I wanted to make sure Councilor Somerville didn't have her hand up and I lose track of Zoom. You're up? Okay, sorry for that.
So everybody keeps seeing transparency and you know, this is an outreach program or an outreach board to meet with the chief, meet with staff, come tell us what's happening, and then they go out and talk to the citizens of Laramie and get their side of it, and then they take what the citizens say, and then they bring it back to the chief, and then they bring it back to city council. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's why we were elected. We're the middlemen. We don't need another middleman to do this for us. If there's a problem, the chief of police and us can meet, and we can meet. And it's also our duty and our responsibility to be reaching out to the citizens and finding out what they want as well. So I think adding a middleman to this is just complicating the whole process, when that's what we're elected to do and that's our job. And I'm not a fan of middlemen, because something that's said over here now comes and gets reinterpreted over here, and then when it comes to us, it's reinterpreted again. Why can't I just hear it from the citizens, and then meet with the chief of police that way? So it's something else that kind of popped in my head, that all of this, it's about transparency and it's about communications, but that's our job. That's our job as city council members to say, hey, here's, we go to our wards, and it's why I'm a fan of these ward meetings as well. We go to our wards and we talk to the people who elected us, and it's our job to bring that stuff to council and stuff. And I just think this is going to complicate all of that, because I say something, if I'm a citizen, just because I say something to the board, they can go to the chief of police and reinterpret it any way that they want. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm struggling with as well. If it's truly about transparency and communication, I feel that's my job as the elected official to do this, not a board that we appoint.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor, please.
We 9 council members sit on, I think, 34 boards and commissions, from Planning Commission to 34, Board of Health to many. And I'm not sure I would call all of our boards and commissions kind of middle go-betweens. They serve a function of being able to dive into the weeds, of providing us with information. Each board and commission has a city council representative who attends, takes notes, and comes back to the council and reports on that. And it's a vital part of our ability to go to be in the community, to be a part of the community and what's going on. And I don't think the 9 of us could handle everything that the 34 boards and commissions do for us. So,
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else for a second time? Councilor Pierce and then Councilor Shumway.
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to all our members who, in the community who serve on our 34 boards and commissions, because I think they probably average about 7-ish people on a board, maybe 5 times 34, help me out with the math. But we have an incredible volunteer community in this city, not even to mention the curmudgeons and a lot of other groups that get together and do amazing, amazing work for us and help us out time and time and time again. And nobody's getting paid. They do this because they want to do this and they want to be part of the community and they want to make the community that they live in better.
Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. This has been a very informative discussion. I want to first of all thank the comments from Sandy Reese and also from Mr. I think it's Martin. I agree with Cleon Skousen, and Sandy, you made some great points. Also, Brian Schuster made some great points, and that is the decision of the council is something we got to get behind. I appreciate Councilor Pierce's pointing out that the bylaws are something that we control, which gives me comfort. I appreciate Councilor Gabriel pointing out that well, I have notes here. Anyway, I always appreciate Councilor Gabriel. I'm going to vote yes on this, and I'm going to vote yes simply because we have a responsibility. Obviously, I've been giving you a list this long of other groups that do not have a review or an oversight or an advisory board to them. But as long as the buck stops here, I'm going to be okay with this. I just don't want to abdicate and give away our responsibility that we've been elected to do. And so the next discussion that we move into, I want to make sure that we keep that clean and that we don't move further away from what our role is as city council members. So thank you all for your input. Thank you for those that have come. It's all been very, but if you look at the votes, Brandon and I are going to get outvoted anyway, so I'm going to try to work with the council and do what's right.
Thank you, Councilmember Shumway. Any others for their second time? Okay. To Councilor Shumway's point, I would just leave us with a need for us to move forward. I mean, I think this has been a long, June of 2020 we started, as a council, started to have this conversation. We have new members. We have members that have left and come back in that time. But I think largely, Council, that's sort of like little D democracy in practice, right? That is the thing. This maybe is a messier version of it than you all imagined it might be, but what I think we ended up with is largely like pretty radically in the middle. And I don't think it's something that any of us campaigned on. I don't think it's something any of us is leaving this meeting thinking, yeah, that's everything I wanted, or close to it. But I think what it is a reasonable approach that fits Laramie. And in 2020 and in 2021, when these conversations were far more heated, that's what I took away, was that the thing that, I was pushing this thing that members of the public were saying didn't fit Laramie. I wanted that. I still think that would be a direction worth exploring. But what we kept hearing was that this is not appropriate for Laramie. But what we have before us now is not that. What we have is something that Councilor Shumway, you mentioned that we had all of these sort of like layers of oversight before our police department, but two of those members, the city manager and the chief of police, are telling us this is the way forward. And so I think, council, I would leave it with maybe just a call to the public to try to see this with fresh eyes. Try to try to find a way where, and I'm not saying that to the folks, just the folks in the room, I'm saying that to the folks that are on Zoom, I'm saying to the folks who have been to our meetings since, 2020 about this issue. The council is making our decision with our path forward. This is what we want to do in this space. And so I would hope that everyone will move forward from here, get on board, and let's give this board a chance to do the work that they're being asked to do by the council. Let's see what comes of it. And if there does need to be bylaw changes, if that's 8, 12, 16 years in the future, the council, the only thing we can count on is that they will be representative of the public. I think that's the best you can hope for in this process. So, I think I would just leave it with a little bit of optimism and a hope that things are going to be okay in this space. City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Somerville.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. For members of the public interested, in 2 weeks from now, we will have a meeting about the bylaws. Councilor Gabriel, item 15, when you are ready.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move to approve City Council Resolution number 2023-35, certifying the Casper Aquifer Protection Plan update as presented, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution.
Second. Yippee.
Well. Motion by Gabriel, second by O'Doherty. Planning Manager Taney, welcome.
Welcome, Mayor and Council. Good evening. The item before you is the Aquifer Protection Plan. This is a plan that the city of Laramie, as well as Albany County, have been working on for over a year now. The update was a joint effort between the city and county. If you recall, as a council and as the county commissioners signed an intergovernmental agreement to join together and to work and develop this intergovernmental committee to work on the Casper Aquifer Protection Plan. As many of you know, the Casper Aquifer has been an important priority for the city of Laramie. Going back all the way into the 90s, citizen groups, city councils, county commissioners have looked at the aquifer as a resource for the community. We've seen multiple plans come through both the city and the county over the years. Most recently, an update at the city side of things in 2010, and then later today, which is the plan that you have before you to consider. For those of you that don't know, 2001, Stantec was the consulting firm that the council and the county commissioners hired to update the plan. We have Mark Stacy on with Stantec. He's here tonight over Zoom. And they were the ones to perform the update. Through that update, they looked at the scope of comparing and reviewing the city and county plans, addressing the western boundary, updating and consolidating the Casper Aquifer Protection Plans into one document, and reviewing just pertinent documents, studies, information, scientific reports that had come to pass since the last updates and the last development of the plans that both the city and the county had. Through that process with Stantec, we had extensive public outreach. Through that outreach, not only did meetings occur between advocacy groups within the community for the citizens of the area, in the county, in the city, we also had extensive public meetings with the Environmental Advisory Committee, Planning Commission and City Council, County Commissioners, Planning and Zoning Commission. Those meetings held individually as well as jointly throughout the whole year long plus process. During those times, we had members of the public come in and provide public comment during that. During those times, we had written comments throughout the whole process as well. During that time, we actually even had a small technical advisory committee made up of planning commissioners and planning and zoning members to provide some guidance related to some of the technical aspects of the plan that were later incorporated by Stantec. And then through that process, we really came to a point which we called the version 5 of the plan. And this was a plan that was very, very complete. This plan garnered, though, lots of public comment. It was really the most tangible piece of the plan and the document brought together for the public to review. During that time, in the early portion of this year, that was sent out. It was available on the website. There were copies available at the library. It was available to anyone. And through that process, like I said, we did receive public comments. Those were considered by the Planning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is the county counterpart, as well as the EAC. Through that process and different iterations and public comment processes, we ultimately got to the current version, which you have tonight, which is, we call it version 5.2. It means really nothing other than it's version 5.2. It helped us track it so that we didn't get it confused. That being said, that version went through multiple meetings with the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is at the county side of things, as well as the Planning Commission, which is at the city side of things. One of the ultimate goals that we heard from the council and the county commissioners is to develop one plan, the exact same plan. That's been done. That is being presented to you tonight. The Laramie Planning Commission approved this plan that you have before you on May 22nd. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved that plan on April 26th. This morning, the county commissioners heard this plan as well and recommended it for adoption this morning. So now this is the last piece of the broader big picture puzzle here of adopting a plan, and it's before you today. What I would like to do is turn it over, if the council is okay with it, over to Mark Stacy. Mark Stacy is our consultant that worked on this plan, just to provide a few words related to kind of some of the real big picture aspects of what we did with this plan and what you're going to be looking at today.
Thank you, Planning Manager. Mr. Stacy, thank you for joining us this evening. I know it's been a long day for you. The floor is yours.
I know it's been a long day for all of you as well, so thank you, Mayor and council members, and thank you, Derek, for the opportunity to speak. So again, just keep this at a high level. As Derek mentioned, we had the opportunity and we took full advantage to go back and update with all the documents and all the information that's been scientifically acquired over the last 15 years, from water well drilling reports to septic investigations, wastewater studies, things that we had done with, in previous projects, and really bring that to bear on the protection aspects of the Casper Aquifer. One of those obviously was the western boundary. One of the most significant changes we looked at and were recommended and put into the plan was amending that western boundary based on the water well drilling reports, the reported thicknesses of Satanka, and ultimately property lines. So identified what we thought was where the protective Satanka shale thickness line was, and then looked to see where the first property boundary was west, and therein set, what we thought the western boundary should look like, given the information, to really update it and provide a clear path forward for property owners, developers, anybody who's interested in what is in and what is out of the Casper Aquifer protection area. Another significant aspect and piece of it that we looked at was the question with regard to septic tanks and how do we deal with, lot sizes and where do we go from here? How bad is the issue that we're looking at in some of these rural residential areas? It is clear from some of the data that there have been impacts from septic systems. The city and the county found in 2009, 2010 that in some of the wells it was nitrate concentrations were over 10 milligrams per liter, which is above drinking water standard. We'll recognize that, this is a problem that does exist, the contamination does exist, but it's not something where we're recommending or that we recommended that we go in and just take out everybody's septic system and outright replace it. We recognize this is an issue that going forward needs to be dealt with progressively as existing systems fail. And we also need to deal with, proactively with future development with 35-acre lot sizes. Trying to make the lot sizes such that we don't exacerbate an existing problem and we don't create problems for the city water supply. Ideally, with this approach, we, maintain a healthy water quality for the city. We don't, create any issues there, but we also enhance the aquifer water quality for everybody else who's using the water in that area too. So those are a couple of the big picture items that we brought to it. Another aspect that we brought to it was looking specifically with regard to the septic systems to see what neighboring states have done, how they're handling it. How is Idaho, Montana, how are they approaching it compared to the state of Wyoming? And, it was very, very eye-opening. And I think the advantage of this plan and the things we were able to build into that is it gives us a background and it gives us some information with which to help, planning going forward as the city and the county look forward to, potential changes to regulations. How do you want to deal with it? This plan gives scientific basis for making prudent choices as we go forward in the future. And so I think with that, I'll wrap it up. And thank you for the time and the opportunity. And thank you for the pleasure of having the opportunity to update the plan.
Mr. Stacy, yeah, the pleasure was ours. Thank you so much for your efforts here. Council members, planning and entertaining, anything you'd like to add? Turn your mic on for me, please. Can you turn your mic on, please?
I turn it off to try to reduce stuff, and then I forget to turn it on. Mayor and council, kind of to just wrap things up for the council. One thing to note, we did provide 3 public comments. We sent those through the clerks. They were technically provided to the county through the county process. We felt it was important just trying to keep this thing as transparent as possible and getting you all the comments that we hear, considering that the plans are exactly the same. We provided those to you. Also to note, since the time in which the Planning Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission have reviewed and adopted the recommendation of these plans as presented, we received no public comments specific to council for the plan, for or against, which has been over a month of time where this plan has been available for review and consideration. Lastly, what I do want to make sure is known to this council is the job that the Planning Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission did. You mentioned it earlier with the last item. These 2 commissions did some very heavy lifting over multiple meetings to get the plan to the exact same plan that you have so that both the council and the county commissioners could consider the same thing. It is not very easy because one little change means another meeting trying to rectify things. But we did it. And I think that that's important to note in terms of a cooperative approach to try to get to a point where now these 2 bodies, both the city council and the county commissioners, can move forward with the next steps of regulation and boundary changes and things like that. So with that, that is truly all I have to say. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know Mark is available as well. I see David Gertsch, county planner, on, available probably to answer a question or 2 if you feel like you need to ask him a question as well, I guess. So with that, that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taney, and Mr. Gertsch, thank you for taking time to join the council. Council members, any questions? Councilor Gabriel, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I served on the task force with Councilor O'Doherty, the Vice Mayor, and later in the process, Councilor Richardson, And we went through many meetings with Mark and his staff and David Gertz, and we want to thank Darren Parkin, former natural resource employee for the city, for all of his great work. And back in 2008, when I was a county commissioner, we tried to do the same thing. We didn't get it done. And I'm so pleased tonight that it's before us because of all the discussions, the multiple meetings that Derek has talked about, all the different people involved in this, and it's come before us with, very little negative comment. And it's been a collaborative process. And Mark, I know that you have done tremendous work in putting together finally this 5.2 version before the County Commission and City Council here tonight. So we appreciate all of your great work and all of your expertise going back many years. And I'm really happy to see this before the City Council.
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel. Any other questions, comments, council members? Councilor Doherty, please.
I also want to thank Mr. Stacy and Stantec. You were really great to work with, and we really appreciated your patience. And also, what I really like about having Stantec do this is they're not, didn't want to use the term a dog in this fight. No, I'm trying to think of some other term. But anyway, they are not affected by this personally. And so it was nice to have an outside perspective to bring to the city and county to consider. And then they compiled up, as far as I could tell, everything that's been done on the Casper Aquifer and all of the drill data and all, and put it in this document, which is really wonderful for us to have as a resource going forward, so you don't have to always point people to 15 different documents, or 150 different documents. So I appreciate it, and I just wanted to clarify, because I heard someone say once that, Aaron, you're a scientist, how could the boundary be this like straight lines? And I just want to make it clear that it's an administrative boundary. So we're talking about 75 feet at Satanka, but this is as being protective, but then this is an administrative boundary to go west of that. And I think it was Mark's idea to come up with let's go to the next property line. So then if a property is subdivided in the future, people know you're in this zone. So if they're going to have to, look at look at more detail on those particular properties. So I really, I don't think we're going to have any opposition, but I'm so grateful for this, and I hope everybody supports it. And it's quite a document. It's like giving birth, almost. Yeah. Thank you.
That is the first time I've heard public policy described as giving birth, Councilmember. Any other? No doubt about that. Councilmembers, any other questions or comments? Yeah, Councilor Pierce, please.
Yeah, and a shout out to Chris Moody out there who's hiding from me anyway. But a special thanks to all the folks who helped with this process that haven't been mentioned, because there are a lot of folks in the community that worked really, really hard on this, as well as the folks we paid. So and just as I've been waiting for I've been on Laramie City Council for 11 and a half years now, and have been waiting for this day. So, yay.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce. Any others? Please, Councilor Gabriel, if you'd like another shot at it, have at it.
I failed to mention County Commissioner Ibarra, who served on the task force, and she provided invaluable expertise from the county, along with David Gertz from the County Planning Office. And I just wanted to mention that Sue did an outstanding job serving on that committee.
Thank you, Council Member. Any other comments, Council? Please, Vice Mayor.
I just want to briefly say it has been a beautiful example of community-wide collaboration, and I really appreciate having been a part of it, and to see how things can work when everybody decides that's what they're going to do. And so thank you all for your work and for everything that took over a year to bring this forward. So
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any others? Okay, we will move to the public. Any members of the public wish to speak to this item? Go ahead and come forward if you're in the room, or raise your hand on Zoom, please. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Back to the council before the vote. Any parting thoughts? Okay. I'll just leave us with one, Council. When I first ran, I think, everyone quickly becomes, when you enter this world of like local politics, you become acutely aware of the Casper Aquifer in a deeper way than you knew as just a resident, right? Like every other house, they want to talk about how you're protecting their water. And one of the things that I had never fully grasped was, you sort of have the two different plans that varied widely. It never made sense to me why until this process, because it is really hard to get two governments to work together in the same direction, right? This feels like I think it's something that we're all going to leave this process quite proud of. Our time in office, we'll be proud of this one. And I think in a lot of ways that is certainly not, for me, that is our planning commission members, the planning and zoning commission members at the county, those staffs at both the city and county, the commissioners, to Councilor Gabriel's point, and I think certainly Darren deserves a particular nod in this conversation. Wouldn't have been here without him. So, I think there's a lot of really tough votes that we take. I think we just had one, but I don't think this is one of them, council members. So with that, City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. Council, we are on to public comments. Any members of the public wishing to speak to any item can come forward or raise their hand on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close that public comment period time. Council members, any future work session topics of interest? No one wants to start working on a new aquifer protection plan?
No.
Okay. Councilor Doherty, please.
Down the road, when our recycling coordinator has gotten his tasks, when he's caught up, I would like to hear more about recycling and how do we educate the public, because we were not very successful when it comes to 1 and 2 plastic, like that we can take number 1 plastic, but only if it's a jar or a bottle or a jug. And it's just not clear, and I would like us to talk about it with waste management, like ways that we can to make that clear. So I would like that down the road, but so not in a hurry, because I know our new recycling coordinator has his hands full.
Great.
I would also like that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you both. Any others? Councilor Gabriel?
Mayor, thank you. I'm not sure this is necessarily a work session, but I think the council and the public needs to know what's going on with 15th Street. There's a 3-phase closure for infrastructure going in to provide for the dorms, and I saw that the other day, that in the next number of weeks, there's going to be a 3-phase closure. So I would kind of like to know how that's all going to be worked out, getting traffic through on 15th Street.
I would say the same.
Great. Thank you both. City Manager, please.
Mayor Council, is that a request for a work session, or is that just us?
Informational piece, maybe?
Could we just get an update maybe at the next meeting?
Yeah, and I can tell you now, I will email you the traffic rerouting plan, but we, as a matter of routine practice, always put out public notice on these kinds of closures. So let me go forward you the email that went out last Wednesday, I think. Will do.
Thank you, City Manager. Yeah, and you please send us an email with any additional information, but just I think by way of a sort of a public acknowledgement of what's going on, I think maybe just an announcement on the 18th. Is that our next meeting? I think the 18th. Yeah, maybe just by way of an announcement, and then any further information is great in an email. Council members, anything else? Councilor Pierce, item 18.
Thank you. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Newman. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign.
Chris Moody left us.
I know, I wanted to say congrats.